So, a few weeks or maybe about a month ago, I made a video where I actually made the thumbnail say $50 GPU. And this particular video's premise was that you could use a $50 GPU, $60 GPU, $25 CPU to play majority of the games that were on PC from PlayStation and Xbox's studios. I think this particular video unnerved a lot of people. I don't know why. But the reality is, it brings up a very interesting question, which is, why did we ever get the new generation consoles, and why did we ever have that marketing sound so believable that even some of us that are on the PC side, like myself, I actually, joined the rush to get myself a PlayStation 5. Went to a different state to go buy it because that's where we could find one in a Walmart, randomly in a small town that had less than, I think, when I spoke to some folk that I know that are from that town in Texas, they were like, yeah, this town is basically less than like 10,000 people. Like, nobody knew that 15 PS5s were just sitting in a Walmart and the world was falling apart because they could not find PS5s. And we literally, me and two of my friends, we walked up in there and we were like, yo, what in the world is going on? But on further examination as to the hardware specs that actually are required to play these PlayStation games, you'll realize that there was literally no need for all of the hype behind these consoles, seeing how you can use a GTX 960 in terms of your GPU to play a game like Ghost of Tsushima. This is a game that actually did run on the 30 FPS, but it was on a PS4. And great game, by the way. I've only played the PS4 version of this game, and I still, tag it one of my top, games that I've ever played, ever. Then you have The Last of Us Part 1, which also, when you go ahead and look at, say, its own minimum recommended specs, you're looking at GTX 970, 1050 Ti, i7 4770K, or if you're using a Ryzen 5, 1500X, which is, in my opinion, really, really low-end hardware at this point. 4770K was actually high-end at one point, but this hardware, these hardware pieces are all less powerful than the PS5. Like, I shouldn't say less powerful, significantly less powerful than the PS5. The only two games that I've seen that actually put up a fight were Returnal, in terms of needing something, slightly beefy, and I think Horizon Forbidden West. Everything else here has just been fairly easy. Now, I made this video because, again, and I'm highlighting that because I wanted to talk about, Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine Part 2 and the PC requirements for this game. Because I think it's actually very interesting to look at these PC requirements and say, really, we still can get games in these, categories that are still good-looking games. And so at the end of the day, I think we just got oversold hardware all over the place. Even on the PC side, with the RX series, the first RX series with the the 2070, 2080, I think the 2080 Super is in a whole category of its own. That was like that was a good GPU. I never owned one because you could never find these things at the time. But the minimum requirements for this particular, game is a Ryzen 5 2600X or an i5 8600K, 8 gigs of RAM. The VRAM is about 6 gigs, so you can run a 580 or a GTX 1060. By the way, the GTX 1060 is a $60 GPU. If you just look it up, GTX 1060, eBay, and go online, you'll realize that you can buy these things for like 60. But in fact, this person will sell one for you. This is a 3 gig version. So let's look at the 6 gig version. This person wants $60 for it. This is the 6 gig version. This person wants $68 for it. This person wants $50 for you because it says mining GPU used, so they used it to mine. You can get some that have not been mined with. I actually did own, I think I owned a 1060 at one point. I can't remember. 75 gigs of space, 30 FPS, 1920 with low preset. So basically, you will play this game, at 30 FPS. Then when you come out and say you want to do the recommended settings, now you're looking at a 5800X. This is a $170 CPU. You're looking at a Core i7 1200. I don't know how much this CPU cost. I know this one's like 170 because I've been eyeing it. But I would like a 5800X 3D to replace my Ryzen 5 5500 for my $650 build that I did as an example. That CPU, it's a good CPU. Nothing wrong with it. It actually competes with what you have on a PS5 and the Series X, but Again, I only did that as an example. I would love to have another CPU on that build, but different story. 16 gigs of RAM, 8 gigs of VRAM, and they want you to use a 6800 XT. 6800 XT's got like 12 gigs of VRAM, bro. And then the the RTX 3070. And then same thing, but you'll be able to play 60 FPS 1080p with the Ultra preset. This is interesting because, this is 1080. There's nothing else that talks about 1440 or whatever it is, which honestly, I don't care. I've never cared about, all of this resolution stuff or whatnot. Many people may or may not. I don't know if you believe it, or I don't care if you believe it. But I honestly, genuinely do not care. If I can play my games at 1080p, that's perfectly fine. I have finally realized today, like after like maybe close to 4 months, that I was actually using a 1080p monitor because I just wanted to on one of my builds that can run 1440, even 4K. And so most of the time, you're not going to see me bothering about that. However, I made this video just to highlight that, the new console generations, to me, I think they were just oversold more than anything else. I think there was just so much hardware hype this generation that we just could not see past what it meant to actually play a really good game. But guess what? The fatigue has set in. A lot of the outrage about 30 FPS and all that stuff is no longer a problem. Everybody is now just, going with the flow. Oh, okay, it's 30 FPS, okay. And nobody is complaining. I remember the last time a Focus Interactive game posted the PC requirements. Man, you should have seen the outrage that actually went on. It was Evil West when they posted their their PC requirements on right before they released the game. Man, people lost their freaking minds in the comment section. But it seems like, all is well, and gamers remember that they do not really care about FPS. They care about good games. And if a game is good, players are going to play the game. This is just a fact. Thanks for watching the video. Let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. If if you've been following this history, I'm sure you're probably, very well versed in a lot of the games that, that suffered based on a lot of this whole 30 FPS conversation versus 60 FPS, which after it's all said and done, nobody really cared anyways. Peace out.